Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 173 based on novel. So let's start. In the cave, Xiao Yang sat down, and his powerful momentum was like an entrenched dragon. With the complete integration of different fires, Xiao Yang's strength was also completely stable at the peak of the later stage of the two-star fighting emperor. However, at this time, there was a sudden change in Xiao Yang's body and deep in his mind. In my mind, the black-painted soul beads stand here, and the extreme solidity of soul power makes the soul beads more profound. At the same time, with the growth of Xiao Yang's strength, his own soul power has also been greatly improved. Now, Xiao Yang's soul power is afraid to be placed among all the third-level herbalists, are particularly outstanding. But when Xiao Yang's breath broke through the peak of the late two-star fighting emperor, a very obscure breath suddenly gushed out of the black soul bead. The moment he noticed this breath, Xiao Yang's heart was not only not half worried, but filled with a sneer. It seemed that he had expected it for a long time. Finally willing to come out, waiting for you, Xiao Yang sneered in his heart. At this time, the soul beads in his mind trembled violently. A magnificent soul force spread out uncontrollably. Then, a cloud of black smoke rose from the soul beads. After several changes, it condensed into a slightly illusory figure. Quack, 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 quack. The harsh, strange laughter echoed endlessly in Xiao Yang's mind, and the thick black fog spread out and surrounded the soul beads in his mind. Xiao Yang looked inward, and the soul power in the soul bead quickly poured out, condensed into Xiao Yang's virtual shadow, stood opposite Blackwood, and smiled at the latter. "Haimu, I haven't seen you for a long time," Xiao Yang smiled and said in a flat tone. He couldn't hear any emotional fluctuations in his words, as if he had expected the coming of this moment. Yes, this black fog is the black wood that should have been extinguished in the southern region Shenling boundary. Pretend to be calm. I've been hiding in your body for so long for this day. Can you easily find it? Haimu sneered with disdain. He didn't believe that Xiao Yang could keep calm in the face of him at this critical moment. It's just a pity that before that, he ignored a person. Guu. Xiao Yang can't find the existence of Haimu, but it doesn't mean that Guyo can't find it. The latter's means of connecting the sky depends on Haimu's remnant soul. It's as simple as pinching and exploding an ant. However, Guyo didn't do that. According to what Luo Laro said at the beginning, they once found a fragment of the ginseng spirit root in the ginseng spirit space. However, in that section of the ginseng spirit root, the powerful energy originally contained has disappeared. Together with its noumenon, it has also turned into waste. The disappearance of energy in the ginseng spirit root made Guyo think of Haimu at the first time. Unless the latter stripped the remnant soul from the ginseng spirit root and also took away the powerful energy, it is impossible for the ginseng spirit root to turn into a scrap. But if it's really like that, the ghost of Haimu is not a small fortune for Xiao Yang. According to the situation at that time, Guyo didn't forcibly pull the ghost of Haimu out of Xiao Yang's body at the first time. First, it was to prevent Xiao Yang's origin from being hurt, so as to affect Xiao Yang's future cultivation. Second, the power contained in the spirit root was extremely huge. With Xiao Yang's strength at that time, it could not be accommodated. If you were not careful, you would explode and die. Therefore, in order for Xiao Yang to maximize the use of this energy, Guyo asked Xiao Yang to keep the ghost of Haimu in order to wait for Haimu to appear. As long as Haimu dares to leave the deep place of Xiao Yang's origin, all this will be under the control of Guu. Unfortunately, the timing of Haimu's emergence that Guu expected was just now, after the cold fire of Guu Ling was refined and integrated by Xiao Yang. Without the protection of Guyo, Xiao Yang is alone. As long as Haimu is surprised, he has a grasp and can erase Xiao Yang's consciousness, so as to devour Xiao Yang's soul origin and achieve the purpose of rebirth. However, unfortunately, all this happened to be within the expectation of Guyo. Drink. Suddenly, The black wood with the rising black fog suddenly made a violent drink in his mouth. His body moved, and his body shrouded in the black fog rushed forward. A large area of black fog rushed towards Xiao Yang with overwhelming momentum, but in the middle of these black fog, there were only Xiao Yang and the painted black soul beads. In the face of Haimu's attack, Xiao Yang's face was flat until the latter's body was close to himself. He smiled. One palm was raised slowly, and the palm was facing the latter. Mystify. With a sneer of hate, Haimu rushed forward at a faster speed. In a twinkling of an eye, he was only 2 steps away from Xiao Yan's raised palm. At this time, Xiao Yang's outstretched palm was suddenly clenched. For a moment, in the space around Xiao Yang's body, a large forest white flame rose in an instant. Suddenly, Xiao Yang's whole sea of knowledge turned into a sea of fire. The raging fire rose. In the forest white flame, there were several gorgeous flames, just like the gorgeous stamens wrapped under the snow-white petals. Under the forest white flame, the black fog around Blackwood was quickly burned away. Blackwood, who was originally threatening, has now become a light pole commander and has no means of resistance. This is. The moment the flame rose, Blackwood's heart suddenly shook, and a deep sense of fear rushed out from the bottom of his heart. I really can't find your existence with me, but don't forget that the strength of Jiu Laro is stronger than your peak period. Therefore, before he scattered his wisdom, he had already made a plan for you. What? As soon as Xiao Yang said this, Haimu was even more frightened. He could not imagine that he was hidden in the depths of Xiao Yang's soul, which had already been discovered by Guyo. His purpose was also completely used by the latter. No. That old thing. And you are too cruel. Haimu couldn't help roaring, and Xiao Yang heard the speech with a sarcastic sneer and said, "Say we're terrible. Isn't it more terrible for you to think of this means to devour the souls of others?" With that, Xiao Yang took back his clenched fist fiercely. Suddenly, those Mori white flames quickly closed towards Blackwood. It happened that I was almost energy away from breaking through the 3-star duty. Then use your energy to help me break through the 3-star. In a twinkling of an eye, it has been 2 days since Xiao Yang refined the ghost of Haimu. Under the terrible temperature of integrating different fire, the ghost of Haimu was quickly refined completely. At the same time, a huge energy was filled with Xiao Yang's cyclone again. The energy flows rapidly in the spacious meridians. After a week of running along the path of burning dew, it is quenched by different fire, and finally enters the cyclone space. Under the support of this huge energy, the peak breath of Xiao Yang's 2 stars fighting emperor in the later stage also climbed again. Until half a month later, Xiao Yang's strength was successfully promoted to the 3-star fighting emperor. However, this is not over. Within the cyclone, there was still nearly half of the huge energy, which also made Xiao Yang feel a little overjoyed. It is said that Shenlingen is the best treasure of cultivation, but I don't know that it is only the remnant soul of Haimu. It actually contains such powerful energy. If these energy can be completely refined, Xiao Yang is sure that it can reach the middle stage of the 3-star fighting emperor. In such continuous refining, time passes quietly, and at this time, outside Yuanwu continent, on another continent, heaven and earth, clouds and clouds change color. Fight the mainland, Zhongzhou. Today's Duki continent is more prosperous than ever before. Countless strong people are rising on the whole continent. All strong people are springing up and quickly standing on this continent. Zhongzhou, as the most prosperous area of Duki continent, is witnessing all these changes. In today's Zhongzhou, the strong stand tall and the forces of all parties rise from the ground, which makes the already prosperous Zhongzhou more lively. Above Zhongzhou, the strongest force is naturally the Tianfu Alliance. Although the name of the alliance has long been gone, in everyone's heart, there is this giant, not because of anything else, just because in this force, there has been a peerless strong man who saved the whole continent. Yang Emperor, Xiao Yang, Star Meteor Pavilion. In the Star Meteorite Pavilion at the moment, an old man with white hair and beard and old face is sitting in the hall, talking and laughing with a middle-aged man. Looking at the appearance of these two people, they are Xiao Yang's teacher, Yarou Lao, and his father, Xiao Zhon. After many years, both of them are much older. Yarou Lao doesn't have to say much, but there are many more white hairs at Xiao Zhan's temples, but their faces look more ruddy. While they were laughing, outside the hall, a woman with a delicate figure like a girl slowly walked into the hall, came to the two people and filled their cups of tea. "Hehe, Zana, aren't you in Wutan City? How can you come here with Kung Fu?" Seeing Zana who suddenly entered the hall, Yarrow Laro's face couldn't help but be slightly stunned, and then asked with a smile. In recent years, after Xiao Yixuan and Kailin left one after another, Zana has been closed for a long time. Now we meet again. Zana's strength has reached the late stage of 9-star duel. Looking at the whole continent, there are only a few people who can compete with her. As for Xiao Zhan, looking at Zana's eyes again, he was full of love, but then, Xiao Zhan's eyes were slightly frozen, and he couldn't help but wonder. "Zana, your strength has broken through to the later stage of the 9 stars? As soon as he said this, the old Yarrow couldn't help picking his eyebrows and glanced up and down at Zana. Even he couldn't help but tut-tut exclamation. Hearing the slightly ridiculed words of the two old people, Zana's beautiful white face couldn't help but show a crimson color. She habitually shrugged her shoulders and stood up and said, "I'm just lucky." As soon as he blurted out his words, the two elders in front of him made fun of him again. Immediately after that, old Yarrow seemed to suddenly think of something, so he didn't look at Zana and asked softly, "Xiao Xiao, what about that girl? He has been practicing that volume of Kung Fu all these years. Should the second level reach the bottleneck?" Hearing Yarrow Laro's words, Xiao Zhan's eyes coagulated and couldn't help looking at Zana. The latter slightly pursed his red lips and said with a smile, "I'm afraid this will disappoint you." Before the words fell, Yarrow Laro looked at each other with Xiao Zhan and showed doubts. With the girl's talent, she should cultivate to the second level now, but how? Xiao Xiao, in fact, she broke through to the 3rd level 2 months ago. What? As soon as they said this, the faces of the two old people couldn't help showing a touch of shock. They thought that it was good for Xiao Xiao to cultivate that volume of skill to the 2nd level so far, but what they didn't expect was that Xiao Xiao brought them much more surprise than they thought. Haha, what a surprise. The girl's cultivation talent is more terrible than his father. A surprise smile suddenly appeared on Yarrow Laobu's face full of vicissitudes, but when Xiao Yanji was mentioned in his words, Xiao Zhan and Zana could not help but silence. Xiao Yang has been gone for more than 10 years, and there is no news. How can their hearts be calm? Aware of the sudden change in the atmosphere at the scene, old Yarrow couldn't help but be stunned, smiled awkwardly, and then hurriedly said, "By the way, Xiao Xiao is still closed now. It's really good to pursue strength, but if you just practice, it may not be a good thing. Don't worry about this. I've told Xiao Xiao and she knows it. Xiao Xiao passed the customs and entered the Warcraft Mountains a week ago." Well, that. Old Yarrow was just about to speak, but then he paused again and had to say in his heart, "This is the same as Xiao Yang at the beginning. Northwest China, Gama Empire, Warcraft Mountains, deep in a dark valley, in the thick purple-black poisonous fog, rotten coffins, and beautiful shadows." At one moment, the woman closed her eyes and trembled gently. Zhongzhou mainland, the 9 secluded underworld python family, under the 9 secluded yellow spring, the undercurrent surges. Endless void, Taishu ancient dragon family, in the dragon tomb, the dragon chi is vast, a beautiful shadow, sitting for a long time, and at this moment, it is slightly shocked. Look at Zhongzhou, double Emperor Yuanshang. Suddenly, the calm void rolled violently like a lake thrown into a boulder. Circles of space ripples spread around at this moment. In an instant, rolling thunder clouds covered the sky and shrouded the whole land of Zhongzhou. Jie. Is this the fighting mainland? In the cave, Xiao Yang's refining process of Haimu's remnant soul lasted a full month. Up to now, the remnant soul of Haimu has just been fully refined and absorbed by Xiao Yang, and his strength, as Xiao Yang expected, has successfully reached the middle stage of the 3-star emperor fight. The energy in the cyclone in Xiao Yang's body was gradually refined. It seems that the emperor's robbery should come. The emperor's robbery should have come long ago, but Xiao Yang has been in a breakthrough state, so the emperor's robbery has not come down. Now the remnant soul of Haimu has been refined, including the energy in Haimu's spiritual root. It seems that the emperor's robbery should come. However, Just after the last ray of energy from the internal cyclone entered the meridians, Xiao Yang smiled again. Since he is in good condition and has such a good opportunity, why don't he try to break through 1 star? Maybe with good luck, it's not necessarily possible to break through the 5-star duty. Xiao Yang's eyes opened, and a touch of light flashed through the dark pupil. When the last ray of energy in the internal meridians was about to flow into the cyclone, Xiao Yang's palm turned over, and a jade bottle suddenly appeared in the palm. With a slight shock, he pinched and burst the jade bottle. Suddenly, a strong smell of dan fragrance filled the air. It makes people feel relaxed and happy. This pill is the 4th order pill, Huaji pill. This was from Zhao Xian at the Yangcheng auction as early as the beginning, and Zhao Xian was also the first strong fighter killed by Xiao Yang. Taking out the Huaji pill, Xiao Yang didn't hesitate. He swallowed it into his stomach. In a twinkling of an eye, the huge fighting energy that had just disappeared in the cyclone became full again at this moment. However, just as Xiao Yang was preparing to enter the state of cultivation again, Xiao Yang frowned, his eyes turned slightly, and he seemed to have an idea in his heart. The heart read a move, and the soul bead in the center of the eyebrows, which was obviously larger than 1 circle, suddenly trembled violently. A huge soul force immediately hovered and condensed in the cave, and finally turned into 9 incarnations. With the growth of Xiao Yang's strength, the strength of these 9 incarnations has also reached the level of a star warrior. If they are integrated, I'm afraid their strength is not inferior to Xiao Yang's noumenon. It has to be said that with the growth of strength, the wonderful use of the 9-turn avatar formula is becoming more and more obvious. With a flick of his fingers, the 9 streamers immediately flew out of Xiao Yang's ring and hovered in the belly of an avatar. These 9 streamers are 9 spirit stones, and they are all intermediate spirit stones. These 9 spirit stones were obtained from Xiao Yang's killing of the 5 great apes in the ancient ruins. There are 2 spirit stones in each great ape's body. The 5 heads add up to 10. Now, after removing these 9, Xiao Yang can still have 1 left. In addition to the countless low-level spirit stones in Naji, Xiao Yang can be said to be rich and powerful now. In this way, I'm afraid Xiao Yang's financial resources alone can be compared with any of the 4 major doors. After sacrificing the spirit stone, the 9 incarnations cultivate themselves. The milky light on the spirit stone flickers slightly. Then, it condenses a path of energy column. After winding around the body of the incarnation for several times, it finally flows into the body of the 9 incarnations. In such a long period of cultivation, the breath of the 9 incarnations becomes more and more powerful. Compared with Xiao Yang's noumenon, the cultivation of incarnation is undoubtedly much simpler. In the process, there is not any cultivation bottleneck, but the energy required is also more single. As long as they have enough powerful energy support, their strength can grow rapidly. Of course, no matter how powerful they are, the incarnation is only an incarnation after all. Strength can only be balanced with noumenon at most, but RAO is so, which is also a great help to Xiao Yang today. The existence of these 9 incarnations can at least reduce the weight of the 9 strong fighting emperors for Xiao Yang. The 9 fighting emperors, even if they look at the whole western region, can be regarded as an extremely strong force. With Xiao Yang alone and his body, he can deal with 10 strong fighting emperors at the same time. Once this kind of thing is spread, it will shock the whole continent. Seeing that the 9 incarnations officially entered the cultivation state, Xiao Yang also withdrew his mind and divided his mind into 2 purposes. On the one hand, he refined the pill in his body with the help of different fire, and on the other hand, he also controlled the 9 incarnations with power and absorbed the energy in the spirit stone. As time goes by, in a twinkling of an eye, it has been more than 4 months. In Xiao Yang's body, the pure energy of Huaji pill diffused rapidly under the fierce refining of different fire. Between heaven and earth, huge energy also gathered uncontrollably against Xiao Yang. After passing through Xiao Yang's body, it finally merged into the cyclone space in Xiao Yang's body. Up to now, Huaji pill hovering in cyclone Xiao Yang originally had a pill the size of a longan, but now it was only the size of a grain of rice. The power of Huaji pill was about to be consumed, but Xiao Yang's breath had reached the middle of the 4-star fighting emperor. Almost at the same time, Shaolin Domain, the 4 families under the command of Tianjian Gate, finally had an action. After nearly 5 years of silence, the strength of the little master of the Zhou family has broken through to the early stage of the 4-star fight against the emperor. Looking at the 4 families, none of the younger generation can compare with him. Of course, this is only on the surface. At least, the strength of the Bai family is not worse than him, even better than him. It's just that no one knows all this. The 4 families in 11 Linyu are all moving towards Shalin Mountains. Among them, the Bai family and the Sun family have no younger generation to participate in this action. The Bai family's reason is that the Bai exhibition is still closed. As for the Sun family, everyone has not asked, but everyone knows it in their hearts. This makes the Sun family quite embarrassed all the way. They are helpless. Everyone also chose silence. Invisibly, as one of the 4 families, the Sun family at the bottom of the list is a distance from the other 3, which may also indicate the status of his Sun family. From the Shalin region to the Shalin Mountains, the 4 families shared a month. This is basically because the team is not all the strong ones fighting the emperor. In order to maintain the overall strength, the senior leaders of those families are particularly helpless. And just as the people of the 4 families came to the periphery of the Western Mountains, the Huaji pill in Xiao Yang's body was finally refined in the cave at the moment. The smell of Xiao Yang's body is quite vigorous and goes away after careful exploration. Up to now, Xiao Yang's strength has reached the stage of the later stage of the 4-star fighting emperor. Moreover, unlike ordinary cultivation, Xiao Yang's fighting spirit is not vain at all. With the help of the power of pill, Xiao Yang's strength has been completely consolidated in the later stage of the 4-star fighting emperor. Finally, the imperial robbery also came late. While Xiao Yang's strength broke through to the later stage of the 4-star fighting emperor, a catastrophe began on the distant fighting continent at this moment. Fight the mainland, Zhongzhou. 1 moment ago, Zhongzhou was still a sunny land. The next moment, it has been shrouded in dark clouds. The whole Zhongzhou is shrouded in darkness. There is no light in heaven and earth. Everything seems to have lost its vitality. The whole world has lost its original glory. On the double emperor abyss, the invisible void fluctuated violently, until at a certain moment, with a crisp breaking sound like the explosion of a mirror, a painted black space channel suddenly formed on this void. Then, 2 figures from the front and back stepped out. The figure wrapped under the black fog stood proudly between heaven and earth. His eyes swept through the dense figures below, as if looking at a group of mole ants, and his eyes were full of disdain. Jie, this is the mainland of fighting spirit. It's really a place for waste. There's not even a trace of source gas in the air. It's ridiculous that such a barren land can produce strong people. One of the 2 figures stretched out his palm and grabbed the void in front of him. Feeling a mottled energy in the void, he couldn't help laughing and making a sound. The other person on the side agreed. But then, just after the cold laughter of the 2 people fell, a strange pressure shrouded their bodies between heaven and earth. This pressure did not have any impact on others, but only put pressure on the 2 people, as if this world was trying to drive them out. It's just a barren land, but I can't imagine that this heaven and earth will be so bound to us that my strength has been suppressed to 1 star and a half emperor. It's really annoying. In the black fog, there was a low scold, but the disdain in his heart was undiminished. At the same time, all the forces above Zhongzhou, as well as all the people, turned their attention to the 2 people who appeared high above the sky at the moment. After seeing the strange black fog around them, many strong people couldn't help but tremble a little. They couldn't help thinking of the terrorist force that was also famous in the fighting spirit mainland. Soul Clan. Within the Xing Meteorite Pavilion, Dantar, Burning Valley and the 5 existing ancient families, the strong at the top all spit out these 2 words. At the same time, in the world of Warcraft, the Taishu ancient dragon family, as well as the Tianyao Huang family and Juyudi Mingmang family, the strong people in the family also looked at the Zhongzhou mainland. Suddenly, 2 figures wrapped in the black fog appeared. Buzzing, buzzing. Suddenly, the void over Zhongzhou twisted again. This time, it was on the void hundreds of feet away opposite the 2 strange figures. A short moment later, a middle-aged man in purple and gold robes and another middle-aged man in hemp robes appeared in the void at the same time. At the same time, on the earth below, when they saw the 2 people, they immediately couldn't help shouting with joy. Wow! It's the Dragon Emperor of the Taishu ancient dragon family, and the head of the ancient clan, the ancient Yuan. Hey, these two adults come forward. No matter who they are, they don't want to do it here. That is, if you want to be presumptuous in Zhongzhou, you don't see whose territory it is. Tianfu Alliance, these two guys really don't know the height of heaven and earth. Then, the people below sneered at the two shadows. Indeed, in addition to Xiao Yang, the two people in front of them are the strongest people that everyone on the mainland has seen. As long as the other party is not the strong one, it is impossible to pose any threat to them. Looking at the whole Duqi continent, in addition to Xiao Yang, how can there be the birth of the strong fighting emperor? Therefore, seeing the appearance of Zhu Kuan and Jiyu Yuan, the pressure on the hearts of the people below immediately reduced a lot. However, the fact is that they always break their cognition of the things in front of them in the most cruel way. When Zhu Kuan and Jiyu Yuan appeared, they first looked at each other and saw the dignified color in each other's eyes. Others can't see it, how can they not see it? In front of them, the strength of these two strange guys surrounded by black fog is obviously above them. Before, with their strength, they couldn't see the strength of these two guys. In this case, there are generally only two statements. Either the other party is too powerful or ordinary people without strength. However, at the moment, these two people are obviously not ordinary people. After all, with their own strength, the whole Zhongzhou is shrouded in darkness. It is particularly difficult for them to do this. With an incomparably dignified mood in their hearts, Zhu Kuan respectfully arched his hands at the two people hundreds of feet away from each other and said, "I don't know if you two have come to Zhongzhou. What can I do for you?" The other side was so fierce that it shrouded the whole Zhongzhou in darkness. They really didn't think they were good birds. "Jie, two mole ants are also qualified to ask us." The appearance of this scene in the sky made countless people below stunned. Who can imagine that they would be so respectful to these two people with the strength of Jiyu Yuan, but the most important thing is that they dare to speak so shamelessly an abuse, which really subverts their cognition of the strength of Jiyu Yuan. What nonsense do you say? Our time is limited. It's important to find the key as soon as possible, another figure urged. Hearing the speech, the former also nodded heavily. Immediately, a pair of cloudy old eyes in the black fog looked at the Jiyu Yuan two opposite and said in a deep voice, "You two are the strongest in this continent. I ask you, where is the Tuor Shigu Imperial Jade? Now hand it over and I can consider not killing you." Wow! As soon as this statement came out, it was heaven and earth, but everyone who knew this changed his face, and his heart was shocked, but he didn't think that the purpose of these two guys would be Tuorsha Jiudi Jade. The greatest function of Tuorsha Ancient Jade is to open the cave of Tuorsha Ancient Emperor. However, the cave of Tuorsha Ancient Emperor had been opened as early as the beginning. Tuorsha Ancient Jade also lost all its value and was finally collected by Xiao Yang. However, what they never expected was that the purpose of the two people was to lay down the ancient Imperial Jade. In the cave, almost sitting for 5 years, I finally relaxed at this moment. Xiao Yang got up slowly, his body twisted slightly, and a crackling sound like firecrackers came from his body. After his body relaxed for a while, Xiao Yang turned his eyes and looked at the 9 incarnations around him. After several months of continuous cultivation, the strength of the 9 incarnations has lived up to Xiao Yang's expectations. Up to now, the breath of the 9 incarnations has reached the middle stage of the 2-star fighting emperor, which is a line higher than Xiao Yang's expectations. This is really very good. He smiled with satisfaction. Xiao Yang thought a little and took back the 9 incarnations. At the same time, the 9 spirit stones with dim light were also included in the ring by Xiao Yang. Compared with the low-level spirit stone, the energy contained in the medium-level spirit stone is more huge and pure, which makes the medium-level spirit stone can be used repeatedly many times, not like the low-level spirit stone. Not only the energy is complex, but also very few can be really used. After finishing these, Xiao Yang's body flashed slightly. The next moment, Xiao Yang in black robe appeared on the top of the cliff of the snow peak. The strong fighting emperor is really terrible. With the blessing of Tianjueba, Xiao Yang's speed has been terrible to an almost unimaginable extent. The 4-star fighting emperor of the same level is definitely not Xiao Yang's opponent in speed. The corners of his mouth slowly lifted up a smile. Soon, Xiao Yang raised his head and looked up at the sky. The essence of his dark eyes twinkled. His line of sight penetrated the endless mist above and hit the top of the sky. Finally, he saw a violent rolling thunder cloud directly above the white fog. Emperor Robbery? I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Now, let me meet you for a while. Emperor Robbery, how terrible it is. With a faint smile in his mouth, Xiao Yang gently twisted his body. Then, he raised his hand over the top and gently hooked his fingers to the thunder cloud above the cloud, making a provocative action. Boom! Xiao Yang's action seemed to really irritate the thunder cloud. Suddenly, a roar came from the clouds. The thunder cloud rolled, the momentum was vast, and the terrible noise made the mountains below shake endlessly. On the other side, deep in the Xiaolin Mountains, Tianying 4 people also found the movement here one after another. What's going on? What's that noise over there? The burning lion frowned and looked at the hinterland of Xiaolin. Just now, he clearly heard a burst of thunder that made him feel uneasy. Is someone refining pills? Is it Xiao Yang? No, we've all seen the Dan thunder triggered by Xiao Yang's alchemy, but it doesn't have such prestige. This thunder doesn't seem to be triggered by Dan medicine. Is it? Tianying frowned. He seemed to think of something. After all, they had just been baptized by that thing not long ago. In the end, if they didn't rely on the Emperor's robbery pill, maybe they couldn't survive. You mean? This is an imperial robbery? Very likely. In the hinterland of Xiaolin, except for the adult, there is only Xiao Yang, but the adult's strength has already reached duty. In addition to her, there is only Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang, he has broken through the fight against the Emperor. At that time, the faces of the 4 showed a frightened look. If it was true, Xiao Yang's cultivation speed would be too terrible. 5 years, it's only 5 years. Xiao Yang's strength jumped from 6.5 stars to fighting Emperor at once. How can people accept it? This speed is almost equivalent to 1 star a year. This guy. Is it a monster? No, it's not a monster, he's a monster. Several people were all laughing and shouting in horror. At this time, in the depths of Xiaolin mountain range, Xiao Yang also fell with an earth-shaking thunder over his head. Boom! Before the thunder, the terrible smell made the world tremble. Even the mountains below seemed to be frightened and vibrated constantly. However, at the moment, Xiao Yang, who is on the top of the mountain, is unusually calm. He seems to be. He doesn't feel how powerful he is from this imperial robbery. Just in case, Xiao Yang turned his palm and a pill appeared in his hand. This imperial robbery pill was successfully refined by Xiao Yang when he first refined the imperial pill. Although it was the first pill, its quality was no worse than that given by Xiao Yang to Tianying 4 people last time. Without hesitation, seeing the thunder falling, Xiao Yang opened his mouth and swallowed the imperial robbery pill. The entrance of the imperial robbery pill changed into a warm current, and quickly entered Xiao Yang's body along Xiao Yang's throat. Then, it released a huge energy, wrapped a layer of green protective film through Xiao Yang's viscera and bones, and finally, through Xiao Yang's body, condensed a layer of green energy mask around Xiao Yang's body. With the blessing of the imperial robbery pill, Xiao Yang immediately felt more confident. Although he didn't know how the thunder looked so strange, since he swallowed the imperial robbery pill, Xiao Yang was completely fearless no matter how strange it was. Fiercely, Xiao Yang clenched his fists and stepped heavily on the top of the cliff. After a while, his whole body was like a spring and shot away towards the sky, facing the incoming thunder. Boom! Xiao Yang's fist almost exhausted his strength and applied his whole body to one point. Such a fist is more terrible than some fighting skills. However, after Xiao Yang blew out his fist, the scene in front of Xiao Yang surprised him immediately. I saw that the peerless thunder was bombed by his fist in the end. The first emperor robbery, just like this, was easily abused by Xiao Yang. The appearance of this scene at present, even Xiao Yang, couldn't help but be a little stunned. He didn't expect that the terrible thunder that makes countless strong fighters unforgettable all their lives would appear so weak in his hands. But then Xiao Yang seemed to understand. The emperor robbery itself is really terrible. However, the people who often face the emperor robbery are just some ordinary stars. However, like Xiao Yan, when his cultivation stops, he suddenly reaches the late stage of the 4-star emperor. With such strength to face the emperor robbery and God's robbery pill, he will no longer exert any pressure on Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang couldn't help laughing when he realized this in his heart. Unexpectedly, the power of the imperial robbery is only so much from beginning to end. It's impossible to change because of the strength of the people who cross the robbery. In this way, isn't it cheaper for Xiao Yang? Hehe, this imperial robbery is not a living creature. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll die of depression. He couldn't help laughing. Then Xiao Yang looked up again and looked at the thunder clouds above the sky. At the same time, in the Shaolin Mountains, a large group of people cut through thorns and thorns all the way. After killing many warcraft blocking the way, they are getting closer and closer to the depths of the Shaolin Mountains. This video will end here.